my coffee and my guest here with me, so we're ready to roll. Welcome to the Circular Coffee Break podcast, where we will be talking about everything circular and beyond. We sincerely hope you found our conversations on circularity and sustainability enriching, both in your professional and your personal lives. As we continue to basically dive into different topics from different perspectives, we're eager to ensure that the podcast remains relevant and compelling for each and every one of you. Your thoughts, ideas, and feedback and questions are very, very valuable for us, and we would like to invite you to share your insights by leaving a comment on our webpage, circularcoffeebreak.com, or reaching out to us directly at circularcoffeebreak@gmail.com. Your contributions drive the direction of our conversations and actually inspire us to keep delivering meaningful content and insights for you. But now, without further ado, let's get started. Our guest today is a sustainability professional with over 12 years of experience in the chemicals industry. Currently, he's leading the corporate sustainability function at Kemira, where he has been a strong contributor in aligning the company's strategy with sustainable development principles, driving growth in clean water solutions, renewable chemistry, and digital services. For those of you not familiar with Kemira, Kemira is a global leader in sustainable chemical solutions for water-intensive industries. Prior to his role at Kemira, he worked as an advisor for the Finnish Plastics Industry Federation and served in innovation project management roles at the Swedish chemistry company Perstorp, leading product development projects for specialty materials. From 2018 to 2021, he held the position of Senior Advisor for Climate and Energy at Kemianteollisuus ry, the Chemical Industry Federation of Finland, where, among other things, he led the Carbon Neutral Chemistry 2045 projects, creating a holistic view to what a green transition for the Finnish chemical industry would entail. And the project actually received the Civic Responsible Care Award in 2021. It actually was, for its commitment to climate action. Welcome to the podcast, Rasmus Pinomaa.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you here and really looking forward to our conversation today. Now, to get us started, maybe a question. You've done different roles in the industry, but also outside of that. How did your background and your previous roles prepare you for your current role heading the sustainability activities at Kemira?
Yes, absolutely. A good question. Well, I'm an engineer by education, but I usually say I haven't done a day of engineering during my career. So I've been into these industry associations, very much on substance expertise-like roles, very much kind of influencing decision makers and increasing their understanding of those specific industries, for example. And I've been in roles that are more, let's say, from a strategic product development point of view and so on. So I think I have a good mix of influencing. Mm-hmm. You need to influence people in this role a lot. Yes. I think I have a good mix of understanding the chemical industry on many different levels, like all the way from basic chemistries to specialty chemicals to end products. And I think I have a fairly good understanding of what it's required to actually bring new products to the market, like how long the development times are and so on. And amongst many other industries, the chemical industry is one of the, let's say, the hardest ones on that side. It takes time to get new solutions out to the market.
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess the life cycle or the development cycles are very, very long in many areas. Now, you mentioned influencing, bringing forward the topic, promoting the topic, and before we pushed record, we talked a little bit about that role as well. Now, could you maybe give us some examples of what are specific initiatives and projects that you have been involved in and have been driving in promoting circularity at Kemira?
Yeah, well, I think my role is a little bit different. I'm not that much involved in let's say floor level projects. I'm more setting the agenda for the company. So I'm preparing our sustainability program. We have the so-called the circularity word there, and beneath that word, naturally, we have a lot of different ways of approaching that. I mean, circularity is, or circular economy, however you want to describe it, that's a huge topic. It's basically the toolbox to solve all our environmental and even social issues. So from that point of view, well, we need to narrow it down a little bit. We need to define it a little bit more in detail, what it means for us, and maybe more on that side of the coin. And naturally, I'm also helping the organization to find suitable organizations that can help us modify our thinking. So, for example, we're members of this Renewable Carbon Initiative, which is a European-wide organization pushing for new kind of materials in the chemical industry. And this is if we get back to what is actually circular economy for a chemical company. That I think is the essence here, and that you need to also understand to be able to understand why Kemira is focusing on what they are focusing. So for a chemical company, it doesn't necessarily boil down to like perfect closed loop systems, because chemistry is often just a small part of the end product. It brings some kind of let's say a feature that's completely crucial for the product to work, whether it's water repellent, the product, or whether it's let's say durable enough or something like that. The chemistry usually brings these key features to the product. So from a chemical industry point of view, what is really crucial is that we are in the upstream of the value chains. And the chemical industry is linked to almost every value chain in the world, whether it's automotive or food value chains or, I mean, you name it, all of them basically.
Absolutely.
So what we can do in the chemical industry, we change the input to the whole value chain. And from that point of view, I think we can have the biggest impact. And then what we need to consider is also the actual impacts of the chemistry in the end products. And then when we are creating new kind of value chains, how can you enable with the chemistry whatever that happens in those new value chains? Let's take, for example, sustainable textiles. If you go from a cellulose-based product, you probably know that in VTT, I imagine. We have a lot of startups, especially in the Nordics, on this topic. So if you just take that cellulose-based raw material and you try to convert it into a textile, there's many different steps in the process. And you need to make the fiber stronger and so on, and that's where you need the chemistry. So that's a little bit maybe a long description of this, but I think it's really important to understand the role of chemical industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in one of the previous episodes, we talked about handprint versus footprint. And I think you're alluding exactly to that point, not necessarily looking only how Kemira can be circular in its operations, in its production and all of that, but how can Kemira play a role in creating a circular economy or helping customers be more circular with the products, with the services, with the chemicals that it produces. So I think that's a very important differentiation and a very different perspective, I guess, also. And different parties, I guess, in the organization you're talking to in that context.
Absolutely, and that's a little bit how we then think about this too. We think our biggest levers here are if we change the upstream somehow. If what kind of, let's say, alternative or substituting materials can we find in the value chain? Whether those are, I mean, the big talks are always on the organic chemistry, like on the plastics and so on. But let's not forget we have a big portion of inorganic chemistries too. So we need to be able to utilize all these different streams, and there's not too many of those. Yeah. And even technically feasible, even fewer. So you need to, if you want to replace fossils, you need to look at bio-based feedstocks. You need to look at CO2-based feedstocks, and where are we with those at the moment? I mean, we're very excited about the technological development, but how feasible are those yet? And we need to look at these kind of technically somehow recycled feedstocks, whether those are chemically or mechanically recycled or something like that. And then on the inorganic side, specifically on the recycled sources. And I would even kind of expand that into industrial side streams, expand that into waste, whatever we can use there, and however we can find solutions. So that's definitely the big lever here, because when we change it upstream, it's going to help downstream. And then as a company, as Kemira, we are in a peculiar position, I would say, because a lot of our chemistries are actually already improving the customer resource efficiency a lot. If I approach this through an example, we have 60 factories on all different continents. And we take in like 2.5 million tons of materials. We serve customers who have the same amount of materials on one factory or two factories. And if we make even a small change at that kind of a customer, how big is the impact actually then? So that's a little bit, if we do these changes on 1 or 2 customer factories, it's almost the same as we do it in 60 factories. And that's how we need to think about this very much. And of course, it's not going behind the handprint. We do recognize this is definitely looking at both sides. We need to look at our own operations, what we can do there, where our biggest impacts are, where we can mitigate the most. And then we need to look at the customer side, but specifically on that and measure it.
Yeah, absolutely. And a colleague of mine said some days ago, I mean, optimizing your own footprint or your own impacts, it's finite. It ends somewhere. If you hit 0, it ends. But basically being able to leverage the good you do to help your customers or help your customers' customers or help society in that context, that's basically infinite. You can scale that. And I guess that would be one of the questions. I mean, there's a lot of research and development currently going on. And you mentioned CO2 as a feedstock or as a starting point. How do you see the cooperation between Kemira, R&D, startups, and all of that, and basically picking up these solutions and scaling them? Because I think that is what Kemira can naturally do, pick up solutions that are currently being tested on a very small scale, but then really leverage, as you said, the global reach, the global product capabilities, and the possibility to work with customers there. How do you see that space, and how important is that in your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, well, we're kind of building new value chains here. And you can't do it by yourself. You need to find the right kind of partners that can help you with that. So it's obviously extremely important. If we're going to start where we are trying to head now with the company, we have a very newly, let's say, and precisely defined strategy now in place. We have 3 things we really want to accomplish as a company. We want to grow in the water solutions, and we haven't even jumped yet into the circularity of water. I mean, that's a huge topic, so we can have a short discussion on that too today. So that's a really important topic. Like overall, a big chunk of our business is actually already making some good environmental impact through clean water, for example. So what we do is we clean water with chemistry. Our second step in our strategy is that we want to grow in renewable solutions. So we want to be part of that, whatever you want to call it, defossilizing the upstream or defossilizing our product portfolio, basically, or then transforming the inorganic products into increasingly recycled products. And then the third part is digitalization. And this is more for us, it's about chemistry and digital going hand in hand. So how can we actually use less of our chemistry at the customers? And this is something a colleague of mine said, it's resource efficiency 2.0. Yes. And that's exactly what it is about. It's with these digital solutions in combination with the chemistry we have, we can actually improve the customer resource efficiency, like reducing their water need, reducing their energy need, reducing their resources, like raw material needs. We can do that in the best cases with double-digit figures. And that's pretty significant for customers who are using a lot of materials. So with this in mind, and especially if we look at the the second point I mentioned, these new kind of raw materials. We've already come out with a few cooperations that we have. We're working together with IFF, an American company, International Flavors and Fragrances, and we're working with them together on this bio-based product platform. So we're kind of the application experts in our industries, in the water industry, in the forest industry, and we can bring those chemistries into those applications, and we do that already. We work together with Danimer on another chemistry platform, again bio-based, to bring that into, for example, barrier solutions. So we create these barriers for pulp and paper derived products, and there we can find new kind of interesting approaches. And what we've also been the first in the world in at least 2 different points now with biomass balanced chemistries into our products, and that's, I would say, fairly significant. And if we look at this, Kemira is in a super interesting position because we have an exceptionally high amount of emission-free energy we use, 71% of the full energy use globally. So we're kind of well on way on that. And on the raw material side, an exceptionally high figure of renewable and recycled raw materials already. So we kind of have good proof points there. We have like 47%, almost 50% of the full product portfolio and majority of that is recycled. It comes from other industries' side streams. It comes from waste streams and so on. And we're, well, extremely happy about that. But of course, we're aiming for even better.
Cool. Yeah, and I think the topics go hand in hand.
Sure.
Basically, in that context, it's your own feedstock, your own production, but it's then also looking at the customers, as you said. Now, the circularity of water is a very interesting topic, because very often when we talk about circularity, we're talking about plastics, we're talking about physical products in that context. But then when we talk about water, electricity, circularity becomes a very abstract topic. At the same time, with the matter of water scarcity becoming more and more relevant in our world today, it's very critical to start thinking about water as a scarce resource and the need to basically do resource management in that context. What's your experience when you talk about circularity of water? What's the reaction people have? Because I mean, if I'm honest, when I thought first about circularity of water, I was like, yeah, you know, what is that really? It's really a little bit hard to grasp what circularity of water is. So what's your experience there?
Well, I mean, as you kind of mentioned there, we're gonna have a massive issue with water.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not gonna be in the areas where we like traditionally thought it's gonna happen, like the Saharas of the world. It's gonna be in the established economies. We've seen this already, and last summer was like a red light on this. We've seen it in the heart of Europe.
Yes. Massive
shortages of water, and actually need to use the groundwater, which is kind of the sacred water. We shouldn't be touching that overall. The same in the US. Huge issues with water, and my prediction is water stewardship is going to be the next climate change topic.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's coming. It's here already, I would say, but it's not just on everybody's lips yet.
That's true. Yeah.
But that's kind of the underlying issue, and for us to solve that issue with the accelerating impacts of climate change, for example, and climate change, what it does. I mean, on Earth we have a certain amount of water. The majority of that is not the fresh water that we use; it's seawater, and this fresh water, we have a certain amount. It doesn't get too much more of that. It circulates on the planet. It goes up in the air. It rains down, and so on. And that's what we need to preserve, basically. So what we need to do, and especially in water scarce areas, is we need to regulate. We need to use less water. And what it practically means for factories is that they need to recycle their water. Whatever they let out needs to be more clean. We can't contaminate the water in the same way anymore. The water is one of the main kind of transportation devices for example, for pollution in the world. So again, I think it's very simple. We need to circulate the water we have, use it more efficiently, naturally develop the process so that those are more efficient and don't need as much water. Whatever water we let out, we need to clean it as well as we can with the technologies we have and develop, of course, new technologies. With the chemical cleaning methodologies or techniques, we can clean a lot of let's say the visible stuff that you see in water. It's called sludge. We take out the sludge from water. And what we need to do is to go even to the smaller particles, because we have these micro and nanoparticles even, and we need to extract those. This is about the legacy chemicals, the discussion and everything. And this is a huge issue, and it's a health and safety issue too.
Yes.
So we need to clean those too. And this is I think the essence of the circularity of water. So we need to be smart about using it. Yes. And whatever goes out, it needs to be clean.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. And I think you touched a couple of really important topics there. And I mean, I agree. If you look at Germany, where I'm originally from, there was a huge problem with basically rivers drying out that had never been drying out for the known past, and it really impacting industry, because some of the big rivers are used kind of highways for transport. Some plants had to close down because they couldn't get any supply anymore with that. So I think it will have a huge impact in that. Now, related to that, what are some of the key challenges that you're seeing in that transition towards circular economy across the different aspects that we are looking at, and what are some of the challenges Kemira has been facing, and how have you been approaching those? How have you been overcoming those?
Well, I mean, always when you're trying to create something new, you have a lot of challenges. Overall, I mean, I'm a sustainability leader, so I kind of it already begins with the kind of the perception of people, their knowledge level. How can we improve that? How can we make people understand? And this whole sustainability issue is a systemic thing. You have intertwined topics. You need to understand how they kind of influence each other. And if you pull one string, what happens on the other side? And that's the, I would say, a fairly large communication challenge. So it starts with that. It starts with the organization. If we just look at this on a one organization's level, we need to have a high enough basic understanding of these issues. We need to naturally incentivize the most important topics so that we are driving ourselves in the right direction. And we need to understand where all our kind of position is in the market. What's our value proposition? Because this is not philanthropy. It should be actually a business driver. That's why we're talking about the circular economy, basically. So those are just kind of the basics to get this rolling. And then again, coming back to the creation of new value chains, you need to find the right partners to take these issues forward with. It's a bit of a general answer, but I'm a bit of a generalist. So.
No, I mean, I fully agree. And I think what's happening is traditionally you had very well understood value chains that were like that for years, for tens of years, in some industries even for hundreds of years. And they're now changing. They're changing fundamentally because you have new players come in. You have, as you said, completely new value chains. You're extending the value chains in both directions, basically. Instead of taking virgin material, you're using recycled material that has a history. Instead of bringing your end product to the landfill, you're basically bringing it back into production. So you're fundamentally changing the way we think about value chains, and they become more value circles, if you want, in that context. So it requires cooperation between industries, between parties that you traditionally didn't necessarily have. You wouldn't talk to other industries. That's why you have a lot of these industry forums still, industry discussions, and that's why they're starting to break up. And you see industry associations start to work with each other, and to basically companies go cross industries in that context. Do you have some examples, some success stories? You already mentioned a couple of the cooperations you have. But can you elaborate that a little bit on what are some of the success stories you've been seeing on that path to circularity at Kemira?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the background that I told you about, we have some really nice case studies about this, and one that I would specifically like to highlight is this platform where we are one of our biggest product lines, where we are manufacturing these chemistries, coagulants, so to say. Not to be too technical here, but coagulants that are used to clean the water, and these coagulants are inorganic chemistry, and we can use different, for example, metal industry side streams to create those chemistries, and we are actually mining a landfill, an old industrial landfill in Finland, from where we get a raw material called ferrous sulfate.
Yes.
We can use this ferrous sulfate to refine those into coagulants. And these coagulants, again, they go to the water treatment facilities. And at these facilities, those are able to take away the impurities in the water that we then call sludge. And if we kind of build on this story, we also have different solutions for the sludge. We can do nutrient recovery. The sludge is usually... It's full of phosphorus, it's full of nitrogen, and it's full of carbon.
Yeah.
And we can use those molecules somehow in different applications. The carbon can be used for biogas manufacturing, for example, and we do have solutions where you can increase the yield of that. We have solutions where we can take out the nutrients from the wastewater and use those as well in agriculture, for example. To get the fields growing faster, and so on. So this kind of, again, maybe we're not closing the loop, but we're having a lot of different, let's say, a lot of different angles to these circular economy principles in that value chain. So we are reusing stuff, we're recycling stuff, we are reducing definitely stuff with, for example, the digital solutions in the water treatment, and so on. Did I explain that?
Yeah, no, perfect. Perfect. And I really like the idea of opening up old landfills, because the whole topic of urban mining, I think, will be a huge topic as we move forward, because there's so many valuable resources that were actually put into landfills in the past that today I think we would be very interested to have for recycling or for usage in the application areas you just outlined in that context, as we're progressing with what we can do with these resources in different aspects, different industries. Now, how do you measure circularity? So you mentioned you're active basically internally in your own operations, in your own production, but you're also working with customers in basically driving their circularity or enabling their circularity. How do you measure the progress in achieving the circular goals, and are there specific metrics or indicators that you use in some of the initiatives you're driving?
Yeah. Well, obviously, there's a lot of KPIs you can use for this, and I did mention a few, like the energy. We can measure that. That's kind of entangled into the circular economy in one or the other way. We measure the raw material base, what kind of raw materials we use. We've actually been trying to combine a little bit this sustainability angle with the profitability angle. And we have a target in increasing the revenue from our renewable solutions. So we have a target of actually, as I mentioned, in the chemical industry, the development times can be very long. So what we're trying to do, we have established this growth accelerator unit in the company, and we're trying to accelerate these projects, take those even quicker to the customer. And this unit is amongst the business units we have, is responsible for this renewable solutions target, which is reaching 500 million in revenue by 2030. So that's, I think, something interesting. I mean, obviously we have a waste reduction target. And what we also do, we try to bring these KPIs also on the output side. So really understanding the impact at the customers. Yeah. And it's very difficult to find KPIs. It's extremely difficult to measure. But what we use, especially now, is we're able to estimate the amount of water we help treat. Okay. And we've estimated it to 20 billion cubic meters. Yeah. Well, that doesn't say much, right? So if you compare it to, or if you want to contextualize somehow, you can compare it to the water use of people. Yes. And that's approximately the use of 370 million Americans and Europeans. Okay. So we're serving not necessarily that amount of people, but we're cleaning that amount of water that amount of people would be using. And then we also measure the amount of our portfolio that's actually improving the customer resource efficiency. And we have now 59% of the full product portfolio that is improving in one or the other way the customer resource efficiency. So we're constantly working on trying to find like really relevant KPIs for us. And I think these are pretty good. We can definitely do some work still on our targets and so on, but I think we're in a decent position at the moment.
Yeah, and what I really like about what you just outlined is that you're shifting the targets from purely internal operational efficiency targets really to customer-driven targets. Because I mean, back to the handprint discussion, I think that is where the real impact is. That's where we need to look at more what good is the company doing and how can we basically provide measurements, proof points for what's happening there. So I really like that split between internal targets, like the more traditional ones, the waste targets, the energy targets, but also driving these customer-driven targets. I think that's very critical.
Yeah, and I mean, so far those are more of KPIs. We don't have publicly announced targets on those yet, but definitely both my ambition and our ambition as a company is to connect like seamlessly this sustainability agenda and the business strategy, because that's the only way forward. Yeah, so there, of course, it's good to have KPIs, and let's move into targets and with more target setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Forward. Yeah, I mean, you basically manage what you measure. Exactly. So that's the. Sure. The coffee is unfortunately empty, and it's time to wrap up this episode of the Circular Coffee Break, or in your case, actually the tea, yes. As we established earlier. Thanks a lot, Rasmus, for joining me today and for the very interesting discussion. I think we could have continued another 30 minutes easily, so maybe we'll do that another time with another coffee. For all of you listening out there, we hope you found today's episode again interesting and inspiring. If you like the podcast, you can help us out grow the Circular Coffee Break community by giving us a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever other podcasting platform you're using. Also, please remember to subscribe. To stay in the loop. There's already a lot of new guests and topics and industry perspectives that we have on the list. So it's definitely interesting to stay in the loop. New episodes drop every 2 weeks. And we basically started to also bring back some of the throwback old episodes if you're following us on LinkedIn, for example. Great. All left for me is basically to thank all of you for listening out there, for spending some time with us, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all here at the Circular Coffee Break podcast.